1.5. Good job.
I'm gonna have to practice that harmonic trick. I gotta work on that one.
That was a good trick.
That's a good one.
Nice. So I'll go. I think that this could benefit from some a little bit more. I think metronome work. I know that it sounds boring, but I think it's really important to know. To feel really like solid and grounded. Can I just ask you how you got to today? So how did you practice this?
I tried to practice with the metronome a lot, and then also just under tempo for most of the time I practiced.
So did you feel like you were thinking in quarter notes, or were you thinking in bigger beats at some point?
I started off in quarter notes, and then I tried in the bigger beats.
Good. Okay. Okay. So I just wanted to work on maybe a couple places, or maybe just one or two places with you. So let's look at bar. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's do bar 6 through 9. And so a lot of these bars have rests in them, right? So I want you to start, think the triplets, and then I really want you to count through these rests while you're playing. So I just want to hear the triplet passage, and then the 2 chords, and then the first G sharp when you come in. Can you try that? Thanks. Good. I personally felt like your E chord, your E double stop chord, the second one, it was a little bit late for me. So it's but. That might have just been that one time. Can we try it one more time? And then this time in the triplet passage, I want you to kind of think of that peanut butter analogy that I was talking about earlier, especially when you change to the up bow. It kind of glitched a little bit, and think about where, so without looking at your music, where do you change from the E string to the A string?
On the A sharp?
Oh, the which sharp?
The D sharp.
Yeah, and where is that on your bow change?
The up bow.
Yeah, so if you really think about peanut butter and also switching directions at the same time, during that passage, I think your left and right hand will connect a lot better. Think of this more lyrically. I like to think. So you're going all the way to the end. It's not 2 sections. This is just one phrase, right? So it could be, you could be changing anywhere. So you could change on the next note too, but just think about that, and then really think the next rhythm. So bum, da, Duh. Like really feel like the breath. Okay, try it again. Good. Can you just play the rhythm with open strings in that triplet bar?
Can I play the
Oh,
individual?
so I mean, good. Are you hooking it or are you playing another down bow on that last note?
I think I'm actually hooking it.
Good. It rushes a little bit. If so, take the tempo and sing the triplets in your head. Good. One more time. Good. Now play the whole thing with just open strings, including the next chords. Good. It's still a little late. I think it's more. So think of the second one as like a bounce, like if you're like a basketball or something. So the first one is. One more time. Just open strings. Sorry. Yeah, it's a little early, so I think maybe you could record yourself and listen. So now just play it with the notes. Let's try it one more time. Much better. So I think that maybe, I believe that you're practicing with a metronome. I think maybe practicing it with these things in mind. Like articulation, like connecting, and then really thinking about the rhythm. I think that would really help this whole excerpt. So it's not just these 3 bars, but the whole thing. So Andy?
Yeah, I think, I know I'm about to say the opposite thing to you, what I told Karina, but I think sometimes I feel like you should feel the bigger beats more, actually, and kind of what May was working with you on. I think you should know when you have changes on big beats or when rests are on big beats, but feeling that big swing and then actually using movements to do that. So like, and then this is like those are both against the big beat, right? And then here, when you played it through, I thought all the dotted half notes were rushed. And I really want you to feel the big beat on the 3rd quarter note. So whether you need to take a step or like move your body, I think it's okay if you're practicing in that way just for a rhythmic purpose, but then eventually you want to take that out to make the lyrical thing. But no, feeling those for a rhythmic purpose I think is very important and something that can help that rhythm. Maybe we should talk a little bit about the triplet sections. We didn't really work on that with anyone, but there's a lot of triplet sections, both the loud ones and the soft ones, and maybe how to go about practicing those. And I don't know. Do you want me to start, I guess? So something that May kind of touched on, I think, is the way I would kind of go about it. You can do all the metronome work, that I'm sure you guys have been doing, but really knowing where your string crossings are and where the shifts are. Are they on the beat? Are they on an up bow or a down bow? And how does that play into account? And maybe that actually helps you determine your fingerings. So I've changed my fingerings so many times for these things. And so maybe we'll just talk about like one specific example. So let's go, I know not many of us played it, but after C, let's go to the piano ones. It's the second line from the bottom. Let's talk about some of these sections because this is kind of another notorious spot in this excerpt that often gets overlooked. I think, I guess where to start with this. So obviously slow practice, but coming up with fingerings, I think I like to group these triplets in groups of 3, and so a lot of the times my fingerings will reflect that. But obviously, depending on what it is, it can't really work out. So that second group that starts on the D natural, the second line from the bottom, kind of in the middle, I like to think of the triplets in groups of 3. And so one thing to think about with, I guess, kind of noodly passages like this are where the half steps are. So that's a really great fingering that May has in there because it uses the half step here and then you shift to third position. So I sometimes do that fingering, but because I'm thinking in threes, I also sometimes just do a third finger on the 1, 2, the third quarter note here, and then 3 again. So for me, sometimes it's easier just to think 3, 3, 3, but in my head that I know in the third beat, that's a whole step there. Whole step. And so these are kind of the things that I'm thinking about when I work on passages like this. And then once you've kind of notched it up from there, you could do rhythms. Different rhythm. Sometimes do a backwards bowing, start down bow. Then the opposite bow. Maybe all slurred. And then, at least for me, I get bored of metronome work very quickly. So by doing these kind of games, I tell myself that these are games. And then at the end of it, it's just a lot more engaging for me. And I think that's a really, at least for me, it's a really good way to work. But I'll let May maybe talk about her process and how she approaches that stuff too. Mute.
I agree with everything Andy said. This is a very tricky spot. A lot of times it can sound very choppy. I tend to think of this also more lyrically. I practice it when I first start with really small bows on the string. So I get real pitches and then I move faster and faster. But I always use very small bow, and I think more lyrically. I'm always going to the next bar. Always to the middle, the fat part of the hairpin, and always start on the string. And I think those are my two biggest suggestions about this part.
Yeah, I guess to wrap up, I mean, I know we're kind of out of time, but I think we've noticed a trend these last 2 weeks that May and I are very big into finding the music in the excerpts. We're very big in the technique stuff, and I know you guys know how to do that, but at the end of the day, we like to treat excerpts as pieces of music and kind of digging deep and kind of playing them as a great piece of music, because usually the good excerpts are. I mean, they're all pieces of music, and it's our job as musicians to bring that to life. Even if it's for, a placement audition or a job audition, still approach it from that kind of mindset that this is a great piece of music, because you want that to come through. Yeah. Anything you want to add, Juan? Maybe, I don't know if we pick something for next week you want to talk about next week, or anything?
Yes, have we picked already for next week, or we haven't yet? Okay, let's just talk afterwards. But I think it's been